The alien empire had no rivals. For centuries, their fleets had moved across the galaxy like storms of iron. They conquered without fear, without struggle, without effort. Planet after planet fell. Civilizations that tried to resist were crushed in a single strike. The Empire's admirals carried themselves with pride, believing nothing in the stars could match their power. To them, war was not war. It was only a hunt, and they were always the hunters. On the edge of their expanding territory, another world stood ready to fall. Their fleet arrived with endless rows of ships dark against the cold light of the stars. The inhabitants of that system had already fled, knowing resistance was useless. The aliens expected no battle, no trouble, only another easy victory to add to their long record. But then, something happened that none of them expected. Their long-range sensors caught the shadow of a ship. Small, alone, waiting in the black void of space. It did not run. It did not hide. It did not send signals of surrender. It simply floated in the path of the entire invasion fleet. The alien commanders laughed at first. To face their fleet with one ship was madness. One commander said it must be a relic, left behind by a desperate species that had already given up. Another said it was a trap, though he spoke with no true belief. Their laughter was loud, but beneath it a quiet unease began to rise, because the ship was not like the others they had seen. Its design was old, yes, but strange. Its surface was armored in layers thicker than any alien vessel. Its weapons looked crude, heavy, not refined like theirs, but they carried a presence that was hard to explain. The ship seemed to belong to another age, an age built not on conquest but on survival. The alien admiral leaned forward on his throne and gave a single order. Scan it. The results confused them even more. The ship was human, a species they had ignored, a species they never considered worth their time. Humans had not spread far among the stars. They had no great empire, no endless fleets. Yet here in the middle of space, one human warship blocked their path. Destroy it, the admiral said at last. His tone was casual, as if swatting a fly. The fleet moved with perfect unity. Dozens of warships opened fire, sending waves of energy across the void. Explosions of light swallowed the human vessel. For a moment, the admirals and captains smiled, certain that nothing could survive such firepower. Then the light cleared. The human ship still stood. Its hull glowed red where the energy had struck, but it did not break. It did not move. It did not even turn its weapons on them. It waited, silent, steady, as if daring them to try again. For the first time in centuries, the aliens felt something new. Doubt. The admiral shouted again. Fire everything. The second volley was even greater. Missiles streaked through space. Plasma burned white. Beams of energy carved across the void. Again the human ship was struck. Again the stars lit up with fury. Again the light cleared. And again the ship endured. The bridge of the alien flagship grew silent. No one laughed now. The admiral gripped his throne so tightly that his claws cut into the metal. He stared at the vessel that should have been dust, but instead remained like a stone against the storm. It was not only strong. It was patient. The human ship had not fired a single shot, not one. It allowed itself to be tested, as if it wanted the aliens to understand something before the battle truly began. One alien captain whispered, "It is mocking us." But the admiral knew better. This was not mockery. This was a warning. Finally, after long moments of silence, the human warship moved. Its main gun rotated slowly, locking on one of the Empire's battleships. The weapon glowed with a light that was not elegant, not beautiful, but raw and terrifying. The aliens braced, but they did not understand what was coming. The gun fired once. There was no explosion, no burst of flame, no long drawn-out destruction. The alien battleship simply vanished. 1 second it was there, strong and proud. The next it was gone, erased from existence, leaving only silence behind. Every alien officer in the fleet froze. Their claws shook. Their voices failed. Their empire had always been the unstoppable predator, the shadow that moved across the stars. But in that single instant, they realized a truth that filled them with fear. They were no longer the hunters. The admiral felt it too. His chest tightened. His eyes fixed on the lonely human ship. It had survived the fire of an empire. It had destroyed one of their greatest ships with a single shot, and it was not retreating. It was not afraid. The human warship floated there, silent and calm, as if telling them that the rules of the galaxy had just changed. The aliens had conquered the stars without effort. But tonight, on this forgotten edge of space, they had met something that would make them stop. The day the stars fell silent had begun. The alien fleet had never been silent before. In every battle, there was always noise. Orders shouted, laughter when enemies fell, cheers when victories came quickly. But now, after the single shot that erased one of their strongest ships, silence wrapped around them like chains. The admirals and captains stared at the human warship, and for the first time, none of them spoke. The admiral who led the fleet forced his voice to remain steady. "It was luck," he declared, "an old weapon with one dangerous strike. It cannot do more. We will finish it." His tone was sharp, but his eyes betrayed something else. Fear. The captains hesitated, but they obeyed. Another wave of ships turned their weapons toward the lone vessel. Energy built across their cannons. Dozens of engines roared as the fleet positioned itself to surround the target. Yet the human ship did not move. It did not run. It did not shift into defense. It stayed in place as if the whole galaxy could collapse around it and it would not care. The calm presence of the vessel sent unease through every alien heart. The order was given. The fleet fired. Space lit up with destruction. Beams cut across the black void. Plasma streams burned white-hot. Missiles streaked like shooting stars. The darkness turned into fire. The human ship disappeared again inside a storm of weapons. But when the fire cleared, the ship still endured. Its hull glowed and cracked in places, but its weapons remained steady, and its engines hummed with power. The ship had taken everything the alien fleet could give, and yet it stood tall like a mountain against waves. A nervous voice whispered on one bridge, "It cannot be broken." The admiral slammed a claw on his throne. "Silence. Push closer. Tear it apart." But when his words reached the fleet, some captains hesitated. Their instincts, sharpened over centuries of easy conquest, warned them that they were not facing prey. They were facing something else, something older, darker, and far more dangerous. Then the human ship moved again. This time, two of its guns shifted, glowing faintly. The movement was slow, deliberate, almost insulting in its calmness. The guns locked on two alien cruisers. The aliens tried to move. They turned, they dodged, they fired, nothing mattered. 2 blasts. 2 flashes, and both cruisers were gone. Erased from existence, just like the battleship before them. Panic swept across the fleet. Shouts filled the comms. Ships broke formation without orders. Fear spread like fire in dry grass. These aliens, who had never known resistance, who had believed themselves lords of the stars, now trembled before one human warship. On the admiral's bridge, officers turned their eyes away, unable to meet his gaze. He felt the fear inside them. It was the same fear burning inside his own chest. "What kind of ship is this?" one captain cried out. "What kind of monsters build such weapons?" No one had an answer. The admiral tried to regain control. "Hold your lines! Do not break!" But even as he spoke, his own voice cracked. His mind ran through history, through all the easy victories, all the broken enemies. He remembered how his empire laughed at humanity, calling them weak, scattered, unworthy of notice. Yet here they were, facing a single human ship and losing. On the human vessel, a transmission activated. A calm voice spoke across the alien channels. The words were simple, the tone steady, without anger or pride. "This is your first and final warning. Leave. Now." The words froze the fleet. For a long time, no one spoke. The alien commanders had heard many threats in their lives, but never like this. This voice did not shout. It did not rage. It was calm, cold, final. The admiral's claws trembled. He wanted to laugh, to deny, to show power. But the fear in his officer's eyes held him back. He realized that if he ordered another full attack, many ships might refuse to obey. The Empire had ruled through fear for centuries, but now fear turned against them. He clenched his teeth and whispered, "It is only one ship." But the words felt hollow. The human warship began to move forward, slowly, step by step, like a predator closing in. It did not rush. It did not chase. It advanced with the steady weight of something that already knew the outcome. And the alien fleet, countless in number, found itself drifting back. The admiral shouted again, desperate to keep control. "Stand firm. It cannot destroy us all." But even as he spoke, he wondered if that was true. Another blast fired from the human ship. Another cruiser vanished. Then another. Each shot was precise, controlled, unstoppable. The aliens realized that their numbers meant nothing. Against this warship, even 1,000 ships might not be enough. Fear grew heavy, pressing on every alien heart. The admiral finally looked into the cold light of the human vessel and understood something terrible. The ship was not here to fight like they fought. It was not here to conquer or to expand. It was here for something deeper, something older. It was here to end wars. And for the first time in centuries, the alien empire understood what it felt like to be hunted. The human ship moved closer still, its guns glowing with quiet threat. The aliens braced, their fear now louder than any command. The day the stars fell silent was not over. It had only just begun. The alien fleet had never seen anything like it. Their strongest weapons had failed. Their best ships had fallen one after another, erased in single flashes. And yet the human warship remained, alone, silent, unbroken. Across the many bridges of the Empire's armada, panic had become a quiet storm. Captains looked at each other with wide eyes. Soldiers whispered the same thought again and again. If one ship can do this, how many more exist? The admiral of the fleet refused to believe it. His claws gripped the arms of his throne as if breaking the metal would somehow break his fear. He had to understand. He had to know why this one ship stood against an empire and did not fall. "Bring me every detail," he ordered. His voice was sharp, but behind it was desperation. "Scan it again. Tear its secrets apart." The scanners reached across the void, measuring every piece of the human vessel. The reports arrived quickly, and the officers read them with growing confusion. The ship was not large. Not compared to the massive dreadnoughts of the Empire, it did not carry vast numbers of weapons. Its engines were not the fastest. Its shields were not the most advanced. By all logic, it should have been weak, but it was not. The admiral's eyes narrowed. Why? Why does it not fall? An officer whispered the truth. None of them wished to speak. It was built different. Not for conquest, for survival. The admiral froze. The word echoed inside him. Survival. The Empire had conquered every world it touched. It had never needed to survive. It had only needed to dominate. But humans were different. Their history was filled with struggle. Wars against themselves, wars against nature, wars against the void itself. Every battle had forced them to endure, to adapt, to fight with a desperation the Empire had never known. This ship was a result of that history. It was not a weapon of pride. It was a weapon of necessity. A warship born in fire and fear, designed not to win glory, but to make sure humanity would not be erased. The admiral began to understand, and the realization chilled him to the core. On the human vessel, the crew moved with calm precision. They did not shout. They did not panic. Every command was given in steady tones. They knew what their ship could do. They knew why it had been built. And they knew what message they carried into this dark corner of the galaxy. The alien fleet launched another desperate attack. Swarms of smaller craft rushed forward, trying to overwhelm the lone ship with numbers. Fighters darted like insects, missiles streaked like fire. The human warship responded without hesitation. Its secondary guns opened, not elegant beams, but brutal strikes of steel and plasma. Each shot cut through the swarms like claws through paper. Fighters exploded one after another, leaving trails of fire that faded into silence. The aliens had always believed numbers could win any battle, but against the human warship, numbers only meant more deaths. Still, the admiral refused to retreat. His pride screamed louder than his fear. He watched as ship after ship was destroyed, yet he shouted for more attacks. "Do not stop," he cried. "We are the Empire. We are the Lords of the Stars. It is only one ship." But deep inside, he knew the truth. It was not only one ship. It was something more, something that represented all of humanity. The alien crews felt it too. With every human strike, their courage drained further. The word unbeatable began to spread across their comms. Some captains spoke of retreat. Others whispered of surrender. And then as the battle raged, the human ship revealed something even more terrifying. A hidden compartment on its hull opened. From it emerged a weapon unlike the others, larger, darker, a cannon that seemed to bend the light around it. Energy gathered at its core, slow and heavy like a storm building strength. The aliens stared in horror. Their scanners screamed warnings. The weapon's power grew and grew until space itself trembled. The Admiral realized what it meant. This ship had been holding back. The blast that had already erased battleships and cruisers, those were not its strongest weapons. Those were warnings. This was the true strike. The human crew fired. The cannon's energy ripped through the void and struck the center of the alien formation. For a brief second, everything went silent. Then light exploded. Entire ships vanished at once, swallowed by the blast. The shockwave rolled outward, scattering the remaining vessels like dust before a storm. When the light faded, a hole had been carved through the Empire's fleet. Dozens of ships gone, entire formations erased. The Admiral's heart sank as he stared at the ruin. The shift of power was complete. The aliens were no longer the predators. They were prey, standing before a hunter they did not understand. Their empire, built on arrogance and fear, now faced something stronger. A species that refused to bow. A species that had learned to survive no matter the cost. On every ship, silence returned. Fear was now heavier than pride. For the first time, many captains looked at their admiral not with loyalty, but with doubt. And on the human warship, the crew remained calm. They had not come here to conquer. They had come here to send a message that the galaxy would never forget. The galaxy had always known the alien empire as unstoppable. For centuries, they had spread like fire across the stars. Every species that stood against them was crushed. Every voice of resistance was silenced. They were the storm and nothing could stand in their path. But now that belief was breaking. The human warship moved forward through the remains of the Empire's fleet. It did not rush. It did not chase. It advanced with slow, steady power, as if it carried the weight of an entire world behind it. On the alien flagship, the Admiral watched in silence. His claws shook against the arms of his throne. Around him, his officers no longer shouted orders with pride. Their voices were low, broken, filled with doubt. One officer whispered, "We cannot win." The Admiral snapped his head around. "We are the Empire," he growled. "We do not retreat." But his words had no strength. He knew it, his crew knew it. Even the smallest soldier on the smallest ship of the fleet knew it. They had been trained to believe in victory without question, but now that belief had turned to ash. The human warship opened fire again. Its cannons struck with brutal precision. Each blast destroyed another ship. Each explosion carved deeper into the Empire's pride. The aliens tried to hold their formations, but fear pulled them apart. Ships scattered, captains argued, discipline collapsed. The Admiral's chest burned with shame. Never in his life had he seen his fleet falter. Never had he watched his soldiers break. But this human ship, this single vessel, had done what no armada in history could do. The Empire was bleeding. Still, the Admiral refused to surrender. Pride was all he had left. He gave the order to form a wall of ships around the flagship. He wanted to protect his throne, his command, his honor. The weaker ships obeyed, though fear dragged their movements. The human ship stopped its advance. For a moment, the stars were silent. Then once again, its voice came across the alien channels. Calm, cold, without emotion. Leave. Or be destroyed. The Admiral bared his teeth. Never. His voice shook, but his pride refused to bend. We are the rulers of the stars. We do not bow to prey. He raised his claw and gave one final command. All ships, attack! The fleet surged. Hundreds of ships fired at once, throwing everything they had into the human vessel. The stars became fire, brighter than any sun. The void shook with fury. And still the human ship endured. Its armor cracked, its hull scarred, but it did not fall. When the storm ended, it remained silent and waiting. Then with slow precision it answered. A single cannon fired. One alien cruiser vanished. Another cannon fired. A second cruiser gone. The rhythm was steady, merciless. Shot after shot. The Empire's wall of ships crumbled. The Admiral's pride began to collapse with them. He felt it breaking inside him. The belief that had carried him through his life. He had always thought strength was his right, that the galaxy existed to kneel before him. But now he saw the truth. Strength was not about power without effort. Strength was not about easy victories. Strength was about defiance, about survival, about the will to stand even when the world tried to crush you. And that was something humans understood better than anyone. The Admiral's eyes burned. He realized he was not only fighting a ship, he was fighting an idea. A warning. A message that no empire, no matter how great, could control everything. Around him, more of his ships fell. The captains no longer shouted for victory. They whispered for escape. Some even fled, engines burning as they ran from the battlefield. The admiral roared in rage. Cowards! But even as he shouted, he understood. They were not cowards. They were afraid of something greater than the empire. They were afraid of humanity. The human ship moved forward again. Its weapons glowed, its engines burned bright. It was ready to finish the fight. The admiral stood from his throne. His claws dripped with his own blood where he had dug into the metal. His voice lowered, heavy with defeat. "So this is the price," he whispered. "The price of believing we could never fall." On every channel, across every ship, the human voice spoke again. The same words repeated once more. Leave, or be destroyed. This time many alien captains obeyed. Their ships turned. Their engines flared. One by one they began to retreat into the dark. The Empire, for the first time in its history, was running. The admiral watched them go, his pride breaking with each vessel that fled. He had wanted victory, but all he could do now was survive. The unstoppable empire had been broken, not by another empire, not by 1,000 fleets, by one human warship that refused to surrender. The day the stars fell silent was reaching its darkest hour, and still, the human vessel did not rest. The battle was over, though the echoes of it still shook the stars. The alien empire's great fleet, once feared across galaxies, was broken. Ships that had stretched like endless shadows now drifted as wreckage, silent and shattered. Others had fled, burning their engines in shame, leaving trails of light as they vanished into the void. And in the middle of it all, the human warship stood alone. It carried scars now. Its armor was blackened, its hull cracked in places, its surface marked by the fury of thousands of weapons. But it still stood. It had not fallen. It had not bent. It had endured, and in doing so it had changed the galaxy forever. On the alien flagship, the admiral slumped on his throne. His eyes stared at the void without focus. His pride was gone, broken by something he never thought possible. He had led an empire that believed itself eternal, and yet one human warship had forced him to retreat. In his heart, he knew the truth. This was not just defeat. This was a warning. If a single human ship could do this, then humanity itself was something far greater than the Empire had ever understood. The human vessel did not chase the fleeing ships. It did not destroy the survivors. It stayed in place, watching, waiting, making its message clear. Humanity did not seek conquest. Humanity did not seek to rule. But humanity would never kneel. Across the galaxy, whispers began to spread. From one star system to the next, stories traveled faster than light. The tale grew in the shadows of enslaved worlds, in the whispers of conquered species. The Empire had faced a single human ship, and had failed. Hope began to rise where none had existed before. Species that had lived in silence under the Empire's rule began to lift their heads again. Their leaders spoke in quiet tones of resistance. Their people whispered the name of the humans, not with scorn but with awe. They called them the Warborn. For the first time in centuries, the Empire felt its power tremble. It had ruled through fear, but now fear turned against it. Not fear of rebellion, not fear of weapons, but fear of a species that refused to be broken. The human warship returned to the silence of space. Its engines burned, guiding it back toward the stars of home. To the humans aboard, it was only another battle, another reminder of why their ship existed. They did not cheer. They did not celebrate. They understood the weight of what they carried, because this ship was not built for glory. It was built for survival. The galaxy did not know its full story. They did not know of Earth's past wars, of the centuries of struggle that had forced humanity to create weapons not for conquest, but to ensure they would never be erased. They did not know of the countless sacrifices, the losses, the endless lessons that had shaped humanity into what it was now. But they saw the result. One ship that had faced an empire. One ship that had stood alone and won. The alien empire's leaders tried to silence the story, but it was too late. The tale spread like fire, impossible to control. Every conquered world repeated it. Every broken voice found strength in it. The galaxy had seen that the Empire could bleed, and the knife that cut them was human. In the darkness of the Admiral's private chamber, he spoke only to himself. If this is what one ship can do, how many more wait in the shadows? The question haunted him. He imagined fleets of human warships, each one carrying the same terrible strength. He imagined the Empire falling, not in centuries but in days, and he realized something worse than defeat. He had no answer. The human vessel disappeared into the black void, leaving behind only silence. But that silence was different now. It was not the silence of fear, but the silence of change. The day the stars fell silent would be remembered, not as the day an empire won again, but as the day an empire was forced to stop. Legends grew from that silence. Some said the human ship was the last of its kind, a relic of forgotten wars. Others said it was the first of many, a warning of what was coming. Some even believed it was more than a ship, that it was the will of humanity itself given form and fire. But one truth was never denied. Humanity had entered the galaxy's story, not as weaklings, not as prey, but as something else, something no empire could ever ignore again. And somewhere, far away on a world called Earth, others listened to the whisper.